Colby. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So how have things been going so far? What have you been up to?
It's been really good. We've just been releasing new music. We've been on the road some this year. Just staying busy.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw you have a lot of tour dates and a lot of shows booked coming up. So it's great.
Yeah, working on more as always.
Nice. So let's get right into it. I love your music. I love sort of like that traditional, like sort of outlaw vibe you have going on. It's so cool. So
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of what we strive for that for sure. We want to have our own sound.
yeah, and I think you definitely do, but you do really fit in nicely into that sort of outlaw country. And yeah, it's really cool. Anyway, so what made you get into music in the first place?
I think it's kind of always just been a thing for me. I don't know. I think I was definitely not very athletic growing up, so I didn't really have. I played some sports. I wasn't good at any of them though. But I started piano when I was 5, and from then I never stopped playing, I guess.
Cool. Um, did you, I read that you kind of grew up on like vinyl, like old country vinyl. Like, how did that kind of come about?
Well, I'm kind of an old soul, just by birthright. Both my parents were a little bit older, and I grew up. My dad had a couple different record players, and he had plenty of vinyl. And so, just growing up, it was always a thing we'd listen to music, in the evenings on vinyl. Starting with anywhere from 50s rock and roll to 70s outlaw country to anything that he had in his collection from his life, we would listen to. So.
Cool. And you find that kind of really shaped like your sound and what kind of music you wanted to do, or did that kind of come later, or like how did that kind of show up?
Yeah, I think, what do you do when you get to the end of the road? You usually end up doing what you know and what you were originally drawn to in the first place. And I think a lot of the way that I write is, there's 3 kind of genres that really come to mind that I would say, like, it's a genre, but I classify them as an artist almost, that I was introduced to really young, and that is very early bluegrass, which is like Flat and Scruggs stuff. That was huge. A lot of banjos, growing up. And then the second would probably be the outlaw, Willie and Waylon and, Merle Haggard and all that stuff kind of in that 60s, 70s country era. And then the third one, actually, I would say would be like Elton John, which is, I know, really weird. But Elton John, when I was growing up, my mom loved Elton John. So I listened to a ton of that. And the way he builds his songs and the chord progressions and that kind of stuff, I kind of pulled a lot from that as well.
That's cool. I was not expecting Elton John.
Most people don't. Yeah.
that Yellow Brick Road album is so good. Listening to it on like road trips sometimes, you're like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's like I always say, I only listen to one kind of country, or I only listen to one kind of music, unless it's Elton John.
Nice. So you kind of, well, I read that you kind of use the tag Northern Idaho boy with Southern roots. So what does that mean?
Good question. So basically, I'm born and raised in Idaho. I'm a 4th generation Idahoan, and but my mom's side of the family is all from Atlanta. So I grew up I grew up basically eating grits and all this Southern food and having Southern kind of hospitality in the house, but very far away from it. And so it was, it's a weird combination for sure of kind of how it came to be.
Nice. So what's in Idaho? Like what's it like there? What's the music scene like there? Like, what do you do? Like, what's going on in Idaho?
There's not much. It's a pretty outdoorsy place.
Yeah.
But I live up in northern Idaho, so I'm like 2 hours south of the Canadian border. And basically it's just, we live right on the Rocky Mountains. So a lot of mountains, a lot of rivers, a lot of fishing, hunting, a lot of country music. And the music scene here, it's a great music scene. There's a lot of different types of music for sure. There's some really good places to play. But it's kind of, Idaho's pretty spread out and there's not a lot of people in the state. So you gotta travel quite a bit.
Cool. So like on your tours, like you'll go to different states and stuff as well, obviously.
Yeah. Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Washington. We've done Texas once.
Cool.
Hoping to go back here in the next 6 to 8 months or so. But yeah, we travel a lot though. Somewhere between I mean, geez, last year I think we almost did 30,000 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Getting out there. That's good. That's what you
Yeah, it's
gotta do.
great.
You gotta hit the road.
I love the road life. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, let's get to some music. So you picked 3 of your own songs and 3 songs that have inspired or influenced you in some way. And the first song you have for us is called If I Were the Devil, which is off your new album. So what's the story behind that song?
So If I Were the Devil was kind of written basically when we started, we released our very first album, which was Life of a Rolling Stone. And we had dropped it and planned a tour all within 2 months. Like we decided, hey, let's cut an album. Let's do this. We did this like a little tour. We were going to go through Montana. And then the shows started stacking and stacking. And we actually were doing really well for just coming out of the gate. And then COVID hit and we canceled about 94 shows in one day,
Oh,
which
no.
sucked. But after that, I was a fly fishing guide for 3 years or so while this was all going on. And I went back to doing that full time until everything got back to normal. But I spent that time writing, and just kind of, I've always loved Paul Harvey's Fireside Chats. And one of his is called If I Were the Devil. And I've always wanted to write a song about it. And it just kind of ended up, I sat down one afternoon, got off the river, and the song wrote itself in about 10 minutes. So I love the song though, and it's obviously been a big hitter for us. It is a song that put us on the map, so I owe a lot to that song.
Awesome. Yeah. And it has like what, 6 million streams on Spotify?
Yeah, 6 million
Right.
on Spotify, about 12 million total.
Wow. Great job. Good job.
Thank you.
It
Yeah,
is a
it's been
great
good
song.
one.
I was listening to it earlier. Again, like I re-listened to everything. I'm like, yeah, it's really good. I like
Thank you. Yeah,
it.
like
Great
I said, it's been
songwriting.
one of my favorite songs, and it's pretty irreplaceable when you go play a live show and people know the songs. That's always good.
Nice. Well, let's get to that song. So here's If I Were the Devil. So kind of as you were talking about earlier, as you said, when the Rona hit, you kind of had to like stop everything and you felt like you kind of lost everything. So like, what did you kind of do to turn things around, like either mentally or physically or?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I got out, so yeah, I guess the funny story about me, I went to college and I was gonna be a stockbroker or a big time real estate agent or something in the heavy business world, suit and tie type. And I got out and I was selling real estate at the time, and I was getting ready to either, decide to be a realtor at a desk for the next X amount of years, probably 40, or I had an interview with Merrill Lynch to go sell stocks. And I had my interview with Merrill Lynch. I walked out and I went to go pick up a broken fly rod that I had dropped off at the local fly shop. And when I walked in, I remember just thinking, I don't want to do either of these things. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I hadn't really decided to do music full time yet.
Mm.
We were just about ready to drop, or just about to get to the conversation. We were going to cut our first record. And I walk in the fly shop and the outfitter there was like, you ever thought about guiding? I said, man, that would be a great option. Cause that'd be like a great cliff to jump off of right now. Cause I would love to do that. I don't really want to do the other things. So I started guiding, and that's kind of where I took that first leap of, hey, we don't have to always make the safe bet. Like, let's try something that you want to do and, have fun with it. And I loved guiding. It was one of my favorite things to do. I mean, fishing and being with people, it was great, but it opened up a ton of doors for me where, we cut our first album. And then when the Rona hit and we lost everything, it was super easy for me to double down again,
Mm.
I thank God I could go back to guiding, and I was doing that, but it also allowed me to double down. I hired more people when that happened. We got out there more. I wrote a second album. We got bigger. We did not get smaller.
Yeah, that's great. I love how you managed to make sort of like a hard situation into like make it really work for you and like help you grow in a lot of ways too.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think with COVID, I think a big thing that happened was, we were absolutely under the radar would be an overstatement. I mean, we were nobody. And I think for us, COVID, I'm not going to say it was a good thing at all, but it opened up a lot of doors for artists like myself,
Mhm.
where a lot of people couldn't go to bigger shows. So the spotlight actually kind of got taken away from some of the bigger artists that you would see. And it opened up a ton of opportunities for people like us to get our foot in the door.
Awesome. That's great. So, you released your second album last year, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Called If I Were the Devil. So what was like the recording process of that album?
So this year we have a 5-piece band and everything is kind of different. But before, like If I Were the Devil and Life of a Rolling Stone, it was just me and my bass player for a long time,
Hmm.
for like 3 years. And so our first album was cut with just me, my bass player, and a producer. And same with the second album. So the second album, my bass player plays, he sings harmonies, and then our producer plays guitar, piano, sings harmonies, and then I played drums, mandolin, guitar, and sang.
Mhm.
So like the second album is all, it's like this 3-piece playing all the parts. And I mean, If I Were the Devil to me is just I love that album because it's really playful. And it's pretty raw and authentic.
Nice. With like sort of like a smaller group of people, did you feel like you had more control over like the sound you wanted to make, or had more fun with that kind of that?
I mean, you have less options.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what do you play? Okay, you play these things, I play these things. So let's do this. And you're not gonna have like now with a 5-piece band, right? We just, we're planning on dropping our third album in
Mm,
June. And so with a 5-piece band, it's like, okay, I have a keyboard player, I have a guitar player, a drummer, me, and my bass player. It's like if I need a keys part, I know that my piano player is going to play the best piano on the album. So like that's more specific stuff versus, when we cut If I Were the Devil, it's like, well, I can kind of play the mandolin. It's like, okay, perfect. Well, let's put some chords over that. You're not going to have a mandolin player though. So
yeah.
it's um the options are more fun because you're
Uh,
doing something you don't normally do,
mhm.
but it's not as specific.
Yeah. All right. I can see that. Nice. So let's
Yeah.
get to some more music. So the next song you have for us is Diamonds and Gasoline by Turnpike Troubadours, which one of my favorite bands. I actually did a deep dive on them like earlier this year. So what
Good.
made you pick the song?
Well, I think any musician, any person really can, I think, attach themselves to this song. But I remember when this song really started to resonate with me. I've always loved this song since high school, and it's got me through a few other things. But something for me was when we were traveling a ton, and I've had in end of this month now, I'll be with my girlfriend for 4 years, and she's great. She is like the only person I know that could, one, deal with me, and two, deal with what I do, being gone all the time and stuff. But this song is always kind of just that song for me where it's like, okay, remember, you got to remember who you are, what you stand for. Sometimes shit gets kind of wild. So you just got to make sure that, you got to keep it between the lines. And this song for me is exactly what that is. It's, you have choices in life and you got to make one or the other.
Awesome. Well, here is Diamonds and Gasoline by Turnpike Troubadours. So, what made you get into songwriting?
That's a good one. I think songwriting, and because, you kind of have to at some point. You got to either find someone who can write or you got to do it yourself. And for me, I've been in a cover band since I was 11 years old. And it's just, I've always played in a band. And then at 16, I decided, I always kind of was into poetry and stuff. I was always decent at it. And so I figured, why not try to write a song? And so I wrote my first song at 16. And then after that, it just comes down to, if you love it, you just want to write the next best song every day. So then it's pretty easy to get into it. But yeah, I think now I've written almost over 100 songs. So.
Nice. Do you co-write at all, or is it just you like solo writes?
I've never co-written so far. I mean, I've been a part of some co-writes, but I've never had a product come out of it.
Nice. Is that something you want to do, or are you like okay with just writing yourself?
I would be totally open to co-writing. I tell people this all the time. Like, I'm very open to co-writing. My only thing about it is I'd never want to feel like I wrote you a song, and I never want to feel like you wrote me a song. If it's going to be a co-write, I want to make sure that it's truly co-written.
Mhm.
And I'm a little bit of a stubborn person sometimes, so I definitely like things, if I'm going to put my name on it, I want to make sure that it has to be a very specific product. And that doesn't even mean it has to be good. Normally, I just mean it has to be specific. Like I definitely like certain things in a song, especially if I'm going to cut it.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I mean, I really enjoy the meditation part of writing by myself, but there's no reason why I should. Like I like writing
Okay,
for the people too.
nice. Do you ever like have any plans of like going to Nashville or Texas, like to those sort of more music hotspots, I guess? Or
Yeah, so I mean, that's obviously something that comes up quite a bit. And if I had, I mean, I love where I live. I do love Idaho. It's great, but it is a little dry as far as finding yourself a music capital. But we've found our niche here too. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, we've had a great time here. We stayed plenty busy, but yeah, I went to Nashville though last August, and that was really fun. I plan on going back probably this summer or maybe next fall. And then hopefully we can go down and do some tours in Texas. But yeah, I think, push comes to shove, I'll probably have to move to either Austin or Nashville, I'm sure.
yeah, I mean, I guess you don't have to. You can make it work kind of either way. But I know a lot of people are like, I need to get to Nashville. But I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I mean, my rule starting off was I wasn't going to go to Nashville unless I had a reason to go.
yeah.
And I wasn't going to go unless I was invited, basically. And I got invited, so I went. And so now, I got good connections now. And so if I do want to go down there, at least I can go down there and do something, which is really
Yeah.
good, go play some shows. So, I mean, set up pretty well. I think eventually, though, just with the way the business works, for at least a couple of years, I'll have to spend some time there.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So let's get to some more music. So kind of
Of course.
going more into your songwriting. The next song you have for us is your song called Last Buffalo. So what's the story behind that song?
So this is a single off of our up and coming album that will drop in June. And this is one of my favorite songs off this new album, this new project. Basically, I wrote this song because it kind of came from a place of angst. One of those songs that I wrote and was like, should I put this out? Because I wrote it when I was mad, and then it's not really how I feel all the time. But sometimes as an independent, you try and you try and you try to get something. You try to get, honestly, just respect. You're trying to get to that next level of someone noticing you, and you just get pushed down the rabbit hole so far, so many times. You get 400 no's and maybe a yes, and that's how the business works for everyone. But learning that can be a hard pill to swallow. So I wrote the song called Last Buffalo, which basically is just saying that I'm not going anywhere. I feel like sometimes I'm the last of my kind. And it can be frustrating, but once again, we're here to stay. So
Yeah. Nice. So let's get to that song. So here is Last Buffalo. So kind of going off a bit of what you were just talking about, music isn't always the easiest of career paths. So what motivates you to keep working towards your dreams?
well, I think tell this to the guys all the time. You got to bat 300 to be in the Hall of Fame, but if you really want to do it right, you got to bat over your head every day, and that's just kind of our motto. Our motto is to whatever we're doing, we need to be the best at it at any given time. So I'm not going to say perfection is what drives us, because that's not what it's about, but it is about having the odds stacked against you and making sure that you're the best you can possibly be at any given time.
And sort of like, would you say like sort of like the passion behind it as well is kind of driving that as well?
Passion's there. I mean, it's got to be there.
Yeah.
I think you got to love this job, because you ain't going to last if you don't like it. It's just way too hard,
Yeah.
So there's a ton of passion there, and I think you got to separate everything between songwriting, the business part of it, your live show, and you got to be able to balance your life, because it's just a whirlwind all the time. So there's a lot about it, but I wake up every day just excited to go to work, because I love it. So once you're in it, it's not that hard.
Yeah. Better than real estate or stocks, right?
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
Kind of going a little bit farther with that. What's one lesson you've learned so far in your music career?
Don't make the same mistake twice.
Oh, Yep.
You can always make you want to make mistakes.
Yeah.
You want to make certain mistakes because they're going to help you grow.
Yeah.
And one mistake is fine. That's like a stutter step in the wrong direction. You can always go the other way. But if you make the same mistake twice, you're kind of on that path normally.
You have any like big mistakes that you've made? Or are they just sort of like
We've done pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I look back and we've been really lucky to where we've never really had that happen. But I've made a lot of mistakes before getting to this point. I mean, I've had to restart this business 3 different times.
Oh, really?
I've been broke 3 times before I was 25. I mean, there's plenty of mistakes, personal mistakes I've made in my life, but the last 3 years, we've been pretty good.
Good. Well, let's get to some more music. So the next song you have for us is called Holding Things Together by Merle Haggard. So what made you pick this song?
I keep a list of 100 songs I wish I would have wrote, and this is number 2, and it's one of my favorite songs of all time. It's short, it's sweet, and it tells a great story. We actually just played a Hagfest last week, and I sang the song at the Hagfest. It's one of my favorite songs of all time.
Cool. Well, here is Holding Things Together by Merle Haggard. So what does country music mean to you?
Oh boy, this is a big one. Hold on a second, I lost the screen. Okay, country music to me, it means a lot of things. I don't think it really means one thing. I don't think it has to do with country. I think you want to feel something, whether that's sad, happy, drunk, angry. I mean, there's just so many different ways that country music can, I think, touch a fan or, really get to people. I think it's something that is not made by an algorithm, but more made by, it's got to have soul in it. If a song doesn't have a soul, it's not worth playing. So
nice. I like that. So let's get to some more country music. The next song you have for us is your song called Tip Jar. So what's the story behind that song?
Well, this is kind of a deeper cut. The song didn't get as much love as I wanted it to on our last album. It's off of If I Were the Devil. But I wrote this song at a pretty low point for us. It was right in that summer where we didn't really know where we were going. We hadn't really cut If I Were the Devil yet. The songs were written and I needed one more song for the album. And I had this little melody in my head, like I like wanted that, and I didn't really know how to do it. And finally the song just came together, and it just is about struggling. It's about the grind as a musician, and in that focal point of I'm either going to lose everything or we're going to make something out of this. And you kind of just put it all on red and spin the wheel. But yeah, I wrote that song about 3 o'clock in the morning. I got up and I just couldn't sleep, and I sat down and wrote it.
Nice. Sometimes those like middle of the night songs work out really well, and sometimes they don't.
True. Yeah. Sometimes you just sit there and put nothing on paper, but
or like you think you have a really great song and you're like, yeah, this is great. And then you look at it the next morning, you're like, what the heck did I just write?
I do that a ton. Do that any hour of the day.
Awesome. So here is Tip Jar. All right, this next part is like 5 quick questions. It's just for fun. Whatever comes to the top of your mind first. You ready?
Perfect. Oh yeah.
First question is favorite snack food.
Oh, see, these are not easy. I'm gonna have to go with. I mean, it's got to be a potato chip, man. That shit is good.
What kind of potato chip?
Oh, salt and vinegar.
Okay. One place you'd love to travel to.
I would like to go. I would love to go to like, kind of the depths of Russia and Mongolia. There's a couple pretty cool fly fishing trips you can do over there. I'd like to do.
Oh, really? You can go fly fishing there?
Yeah, it's pretty backcountry, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty remote. But there's a few really cool destination fishing things I'd like to do.
Huh, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Favorite holiday.
My favorite holiday is probably the 4th of July.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
And favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show. I'll probably say The Office.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've probably watched The Office like at least like 10 times all the way through.
Oh, at least.
Yeah. Nice. And where can people find you?
You can find me anywhere with the search engine, that you can type Colby Acuff into. But primarily, obviously Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, anything that you got, we got. So just, look us up and check us out.
Awesome. And I'll have all that linked in the show description below, so you don't have to go search for it. You just hit the links. So the last song you have for us is called Long Black Veil by Lefty Frizzle. So what made you pick this song?
Well, this is my number one on songs I wish I would have wrote. So it's an older song. And Lefty was, a pretty big inspiration to like Merle Haggard and those guys too. So he's kind of one of the OG guys. And Long Black Veil, it's probably his most popular song. I'm not sure, but great song. It's just it's a murder ballad with a twist. Really good writing. It's one of my favorites.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It was a ton of fun.
And thanks so much for listening, and be sure to come back next week for more country music.